co-host,
Yes, Vivian Demuth.
Vivian Demuth, and we're here spontaneously putting a show together. We're both producers here at M&M, newly producers or revisiting our role as producers. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm fine. I was at the bookstore today, and I keep saying I would never purchase another book, but I can't do that because I have a writer sitting next to me who's written three books already, or
Four.
Four. The titles of all your books. Oh, I know one's a novel and one's a book of poetry. The other two?
Okay, I've got 2 novels and 2 books of poetry.
Okay, give us a brief synopsis of each one of them, just overall.
Well, they're all eco-fiction, so that's easy.
Eco-fiction, and by eco-fiction for us New Yorkers, tell us what eco-fiction is.
Well, it's concerned with nature. Yeah,
Okay.
they're all concerned with nature and what's happening to the environment and how we come to understand the natural world.
Okay.
And one of them is set among a community of fire lookouts.
And fire lookouts.
Yes, where people work watching for forest fires.
Okay.
Yes, and I often use magical realism. Yes. And how about you? What about your books?
Well, I only have one out, but I'm working on the second one, and the second one's actually working with someone else. He has a book of poetry that he wrote to his wife, Edward Delgado, and so I'm going to put him first in the book, and the second part of the book would be just some poems and poems for myself. But
and what's the name of your first book? What is it about?
Blackpoemology. It's a poem set into a play format. It has 10 men, 1 female, who encompass the wife, mother, daughter, sister of all the 10 men. And they're taking on a journey from 1841 until 1999, and everything that comes in between there. And it's a journey of a psychological journey, dealing with the emotions that men of color may have, under my artistic license, assumed from slavery to the AIDS epidemic.
Well, it's interesting that you have the mothers and the sisters and daughters.
I couldn't leave them out. I couldn't leave them out because they're my center figures, and those are the ones who nurtured me. So I couldn't leave them out. And like I said, I just have one strong woman in there. She encompasses all of the women in the men's lives, you know.
And what inspired you to write poems in the form of a play? Where did that originate from?
Well, my inspiration came from Ntishaki Shange, who wrote for colored girls who considered suicide when the rain was enough. And she did it with 7 women. And she won a Tony Award back in 1976 for the play when it went to Broadway. It originally started at coffee shops. She shopped it around coffee shops, and I think the Public Theater picked it up, and then the New Federal Theater picked it up with Woody King back in the 70s. And it was the first time I saw the play on Broadway in '76, dating myself. But it just lured me to the theater, but I enjoy doing background work.
Yes, but you've been involved in the theater.
I've been in the theater for decades, but only background. I have a hard time memorizing my lines.
Oh, really? Well, we could work on
that. I have done it, though. I have done it. But usually up to the night of performance, I'm still on jetted eds and stuff like that. But yeah. But in the interim, I was at the radio station WBAI for a while, and what I like about being at the radio station, or even being here at M&M, is that you meet other writers who don't get the recognition from ABC and CBS, and they're not being interviewed by Whoopi and them on The View. So I like to bring those artists and even the musicians from the subway systems. That the MTA has now created a venue for local artists to perform in the subway.
So do they actually have like a platform, or how does that?
I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if some of them, I know it has to be some organization, because you don't want 2 performers on the same platform fighting for the same dollars that's being donated. So I think they have to go through an audition with MTA. I'm going to look into that because I really don't know, because you see them all over the place. And I know there's a law about soliciting funds on public venues, but I think the subway has saw that it was a big need for it. And it's been, I would say, about 30 years now that I've seen it.
And it's You can do it anywhere. You can play anywhere.
Any
or-
venue, mostly a
Uh-huh.
lot of people are right there at Times Square between you make this shuttle connection from the shuttle to the
Uh-huh.
2 or 3 or the 4
Oh
or 5.
yes, yeah.
That venue is a big venue where they
Mhm.
find a lot of artists there.
Mhm.
But you may also Times Square, 42nd Street, 8th Avenue line with a D
Mhm.
and the E train line is you'll find a lot of people.
Mhm.
And now I'm seeing them as far as the 72nd Street on the 2 and 3 line. Mostly
Mhm.
someone with a keyboard or someone
Yeah.
with just a recorder.
Yeah, and there's some really good music happening.
Fantastic vocalists
Yeah.
that I wish I just had a venue to put them on at Jazz Lincoln Center. New
Really?
artists. I wish I had that. I wish I had that
Someday.
connection.
This is the beginning.
But yeah,
What is your interest in music? Like, do
I
you play an instrument?
I
or?
play. I dip and dab a piano a little bit.
Mhm.
I've always wanted to be a musician, but play a classical piano. But when I came up, there was a stigma attached to, in my mind's eye, and I think sometimes as kids we tend to put more on ourselves than literally there is. I was only exposed to Liberace when I was growing up. And, being a young man of color in the 60s and 70s, Liberace was not something that I want to idolize, although I think he's a fantastic musician, showmanship now
Yeah.
that I'm older. But then it was a stigma attached to it that I really somewhat feared,
Mm-hmm.
if I can say. And I didn't learn of Duke Ellington, Billy Strayhorn, Cecil Tyler, Billy Taylor, until I was in my 20s. And if you really want to master piano, you have to start young.
Uh-huh.
But no one told me about the discipline of becoming a musician. Not
Mhm.
just the practicing for hours,
Mhm.
but it also disciplines you in other fields of work. So if you're bad
Mhm.
in math,
Uh-huh.
if you learn music, you
Uh-huh.
learn the counting. You know the beats and the
Yeah.
signatures
They
of
say
music.
it's on the same side of the brain, music
Yeah.
and math.
And so, but no one broke that down to me as a youngster. And it wasn't until I started going to theaters and stuff like that and started picking up. But I
Who
have a
introduced you to Liberace? What-
just watching him on TV, Sunday
Oh,
nights,
like at home.
variety shows.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't know about, and Stevie Wonder was a little kid, but I didn't know he played the piano. I remember him playing the harmonica.
Oh.
But I didn't know he played the piano until I was, once again,
Uh-huh.
of age.
Uh-huh. And did you see musicians on the street when you were growing up in New York?
No, I didn't. Not until
It's a new
Not until I was much older.
Mm.
I remember being in Paris 2 years ago, and there was a musician on the street playing, and I thought that was amazing because I know we have him now here in New York, but I just didn't think it globally. I didn't think globally
Right.
that there would be street musicians playing.
Right. Yeah.
Not that I lived a sheltered life, but I just didn't think. I think New Yorkers or Americans, period, are so narrow-minded until they get travel and
Yes.
become broader.
Right.
So I didn't think globally.
Yeah.
Musically, artistically, even politically, I don't think globally until I started traveling.
Mhm.
I thought everything was centered right here on Manhattan
The
Island.
Big Apple.
But I've been wide awake, in my travels.
Mm-hmm. You were woken up by
Yeah.
by what you saw.
Especially when you can't get a burger at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're in Turkey somewhere. Or you're in England, Although in Paris you can go to McDonald's, which is now 24 hours, but who wants to eat
Oh.
McDonald's? You go to Paris, you don't want to eat McDonald's.
That's true.